Brandon, and the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Tuesday, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so, and share the video on all social media platforms. Tonight I want to do another college football early season preview, and this may be the last one I get to do since the season starts Saturday. Now, granted, there's only like 5 games on Saturday, and really probably only one anybody cares about, and that's the noon game over in Ireland between Kansas State and Iowa State. I'm not sure if anybody cares about any of the other games, but nevertheless, I want to get all my early season previews in before the season starts, and the season does officially start Saturday. So this will probably be the last one I get to do. Maybe I do one, next week before the actual, full slate of games happens. But definitely won't be a team that's playing this week since it starts Saturday. I did do Kansas State a couple of weeks ago since they played in week 0. But today I want to do Iowa. And, Iowa is one of those teams that's really hard to predict because, Kirk Ferentz has been there forever, and he wins about 7.5 games a year. If you look at how many games he's won and how many years he's been there, he wins right at 7 or 7.5 games a year. And I heard on the radio last week that right now their over or under season win total is 7.5. So it's right where they normally would be. Every once in a while they'll sneak up and have a 9 or 10 win season, and every once in a while they'll be awful and only win 4 or 5 games. But generally, most of the time, they're between 6 and 9 wins. That's what they do. So if you pick Iowa to go 7-5 or 8-4, you're probably right on course with what everybody else thinks. And Kirk Ferentz wins 7.5 games a year, and they've had the worst offense in the country the last 10 years. So the fact that he can win 7 or 8 games and he can't score is actually pretty impressive. There was a time a couple of years ago where they were bottom 3 in the country, I think 3 years straight in total offense, and they still won 20-plus games. How he does it, I don't know. But will this year be any different? Let's talk about it. Their quarterback is going to be Mark Gronowski, who is a transfer from South Dakota State. Now, we know South Dakota State's a powerhouse at the FCS level. They've won some national championships here recently, and Mark Gronowski has done great there. He's probably, as far as numbers-wise, what he's done at South Dakota State is better than what any Iowa quarterback has done in over a decade. Let's see if he can do that at Iowa. Hey there, Monument. Glad to have you here. Their offensive coordinator going into year number 2 is Tim Lester. Hey there, Gunther. Glad to have you here. Their defensive coordinator is Phil Parker. Now, Phil Parker's been the defensive coordinator since, I think, 2012, but he's actually been on staff since 99 when Kirk Ferentz became the head coach. Phil Parker is the longest tenured assistant coach in America, and he's 62 now, so my guess is he has no desire to be a head coach. He's going to be a DC till he's ready to retire and go home. But their defense is so good, you kind of can't blame the guy because they have turnover every year with all their players. Go to the NFL, come back the next year, and they'll be top 10 in defense. They do it every year. Now, of course, we know Iowa, they're always going to be a strong running team. Will be again this year. But their primary running back is going to be Kamari Moulton, and they'll have a few guys behind him, but he'll be the primary running back. Hey there, Austin. Glad to have you here. Hopefully all of y'all have subscribed to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. But Iowa will start August the 30th against Albany, and then on September 6th, they play Iowa State. If you look on paper, I think this year both teams are probably close in overall talent. Usually Iowa has the far better talent. A couple of times Iowa State's had the better talent, but this year, honestly, I think both teams are pretty close in talent. But Iowa seems to beat Iowa State every year. It don't matter how good Iowa State is. Very rarely do they beat Iowa, and that's probably the one thing that keeps Matt Campbell back from being considered a great coach. Is that you coach Iowa State, and Iowa has the worst offense in America, and you play in the Big 12, which is known for their offense, and you play Iowa, who can't score, and you can't beat them. And yes, I do have a show this weekend, Austin. After Iowa State, they play UMass on September 13th, and that will wrap up their non-conference season. And then they'll kick off conference play on Friday night, September 19th, against the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Then they play Indiana on September 27th. And then they have their first bye week of the season in week 6. Then they come back in week 7, October the 11th, and they play Wisconsin. October 18th, Penn State. October 25th, Minnesota. And then they have their second bye week of the season. And then November the 8th, Oregon. November 15th, USC. November 22nd, Michigan State. And then wrapping up the season, as always, Friday of Thanksgiving weekend, November 28th against Nebraska. Now, I think they go 3-0 in their non-conference schedule because I think they beat Iowa State, and they shouldn't have an issue with Albany or UMass. And, of course, the Big Ten plays 3 non-conference games and 9 conference games. Now, for Iowa, I think the ceiling is 10-2. I just don't see any plausible way that they beat Oregon or Penn State. So I think their ceiling is 10-2, and they've got a butt ton of swing games. So to me, I think their floor is 5-7. I think their ceiling is 10-2. I'm kind of going to go in the middle and do what Iowa typically does and say they go 8-4. I'm going to say they lose, like I said, to Oregon and Penn State. And then I think this is the year that we finally see Lincoln Riley start to turn the corner at USC. So I'll give them a loss against USC. That's 3 losses. And the other loss, you can pick whatever game you want to. Hey there, Turnip. Glad to have you here, but I kind of came down to Indiana or Wisconsin. I say they win one of those and split one. I'm going to say they beat Indiana and lose to Wisconsin only because Indiana is before the bye week. So I think they'll focus on Indiana. They'll be 5-0 going into that off week after Indiana, the first week in October. And they're going to spend their off week thinking about the Penn State game coming up in 2 weeks. And they're going to lose focus, and they're going to totally forget about Wisconsin, and they're going to come out of their bye week and lose to Wisconsin. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if they lose to Indiana and beat Wisconsin. Either way, Iowa most years, because of the fact they can't score, they always have one game that they have no business losing that they lose. And this year, to me, that's going to be Wisconsin. I think they're better than Wisconsin. Wisconsin was no good last year, and they got worse at running back, worse at wide receiver, and worse at quarterback. So I think that's why Iowa overlooks them and loses that game. So I'll go with Iowa 5-4 in the Big Ten, 8-4 overall. Their 4 losses: Wisconsin, Penn State, Oregon, and USC. As I said earlier in the week, before the season starts, I want to come back on here with every prediction I've made and say what it was in case you missed that video or you forgot about that video, so that when the season's over with, we can see about how close or how far off I was with every team. I've got right around 20, I think, that I've done so far. I start this back in like mid to late April, right around the time the spring games are over. But I usually only do like one a week until we get to mid to late July, and then I'll start doing about two a week. And then this year, I think in the last 2 weeks, I've done about three a week. But it's so hard to do because with the transfer portal now, you can look at a roster in March and think, oh, this team's going to have this, and then come back in, July, and half the guys they had in March, they don't have anymore. So it's so hard to do now. Plus, I feel like if you do too many in April, you're just kind of oversaturating yourself with college football, and then by the time it gets here, you're like, man, I've been talking about it for the last 5 months. So I just try to kind of sort of ease into it. In the last couple of weeks, I've been heavy on college football, but I've got to do that. And we've got to talk about the games coming up this weekend before the week is over with. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. But let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Did you hear that the cabinet installer was arrested? He was charged with counterfeiting. Hey there, Eddie. Glad to have you here. And Eddie, I hope you went back and watched my 2025 early season preview on your team, which is Alabama, so you can tell me whether or not you agree with my prediction. I told you about it the week that I done it, but it's been so long now since I've done it, I forget when I done it. But I don't title my videos anymore because every once in a while I will, but I feel like that's a bad idea because to me, if people watch it live, that's great. But I feel like if they don't watch it live and you title video, if they read the title and it's something that doesn't appeal to them, they're not going to watch the video because they read the title and think, I don't want to hear about that. So I thought, you know what, I'll just stop titling mine. So if you don't watch it live and you watch it later, you can't read the title and get a hint of what I'm talking about. Plus, there's times I come on here, like today, I was only going to do my Iowa early season preview, which is what I really did. But there's been times I come on here with, just going to go in here and do one team's early season prediction video, and then I'll get asked, 45 questions. So it's a 45-minute video, but my main topic might have lasted 10 minutes. So if you put a title in it, it makes people think that's what you really focused on, and sometimes what I'm intending on focusing on, I don't get too focused on because I enjoy reading the comments and answering the questions when I get asked them. But Eddie, I mentioned it to you the week I done it, but it's been too long now. I know you had told me you'd check it out when I done it, but it's been at least 3 weeks now, maybe a little longer. I think it's been about 3 weeks now. I want to say it was late July when I did my Alabama prediction video. But hopefully you'll watch the Eddie and tell me what you think. But that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of three. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.